So here is my final reflections related to our PSY 2110 Psychology of Death and Dying for spring 2019. So the first area that is my reflections on death and what I believe happens after death. My personal belief is that the soul doesn't die, it's the body that dies, and that whenever the survivor needs that person's energy, that the person is there and can be called upon, that they do kind of come in and out around that person, but they're there for as long as the person is needing. So, excuse me, as far as the death anxiety questionnaire, I was really surprised at the change of results. So my original results were 13, and which is just above the average, and my new results were a 5. So huge, in my opinion, a huge difference as far as reduction of that anxiety related to death for myself. My highest item as far as fear was suffering, and now that is number 2 for me. So, which I feel like that makes sense now that I have a better understanding about what hospice care is and how that works. And seeing, I think the video that we saw this week was really impactful to see what those hospice nurse individuals were doing for their patients and their families. Very helpful to see that. I'd also have to say that my secondary fear was the unknown, and having a better understanding of my beliefs of what happens after death is much more helpful. I mean, I think there's always going to be anxiety around death and dying because it's something that you never truly know when or how or when it's going to happen, and so that is always going to be a little bit anxious causing. But on the other side, it's just make life what you can right now, and if you have a terminal illness, then do what you can to make yourself happy in those final moments. As far as helping professionals and what they need to have an understanding of, I do believe that they need to have an understanding much greater than the general audience, so that they can help a range of individuals. Their understanding has to be able to relate to people's different cultures and religions and beliefs. And even though they have their own personal beliefs, they have to kind of put that aside in order to best care for the individual. And then also making sure that they're asking their hospice team for assistance if there's something unusual that they haven't come across or are having trouble kind of with dealing with the patient with. Working for I work for U of M, which is a teaching hospital. And the one thing I have found more often than not is that the students in training need to really focus on patients that every patient does not line up in a textbook fashion. And so I think it's important that a health professional, whether they're dealing with regular everyday general medicine or with terminal illness or even death, is they have to recognize that everybody doesn't fit into that perfect little box, and they need to be able to think outside of the box in order to best care for the individuals, survivors, or whoever they're trying to help. My honest reflection related to grief and bereavement, I believe that grief is natural and that it's different for everyone, and it takes people different times in order to get through and grieve and bereave through a process when there's been a loss. One thing I have learned in this class is that it is not a straight line process. It is not something where you go through these different stages and then that's it. It's so much more like a topsy-turvy roller coaster, up and down and back and forth, and you feel like maybe you're going to have a good day, but then maybe something triggers it, a song, or you see a video or something that just kind of triggers things, and you go back into a kind of spiral of different emotions. As far as my biggest concern with the class or leaving the class is throughout this time I've had to put death and dying in the forefront, which is not necessarily bad, but it's a good thing. And I'm afraid of losing the progress that I've made with putting that in the forefront. I previously was something I did not want to talk about and I didn't want to deal with. And now I think it's really important to deal with and something important that you have to talk to and work through with your loved ones. So there is concern that I'll lose that. But other than that, I feel like I have a good understanding and a good appreciation for what the material in this class was meant to provide. With that, I want to thank you, Professor Cooper, for everything, and I really enjoyed the class.